folks barely down the street with the brim pulled way down low. Ain't no sound but the sound of his feet. Machine guns ready to go. Are you ready? Hey, are you ready for this? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Out of the doorway, the bullets rip to the sound of the beat. Yeah. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one gone.
That is right, everyone. Another one does bite the dust. The streak is over for David Rome and the TFL Locks. But we will get into that here in just a minute. This is the David Rome and Dan Tirico show. Dan Tirico, how are we doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good. It was an excellent week in the TFL, and we also have a big week coming up as well, with it being the second round of the rivalry week. A lot of teams have to win to keep their names. But before we get into all that, let's get into those Week 8 results. Anything out of those Week 8 results surprise you, not surprise, scare you, not scare you?
Well, we got a couple, had some close matches. Old school, terrible towels, less than 3-point separation on that one, with old school coming out on top. Every day I'm wrestling, beat Rampant Lions, again leading that series. Rampant Lions beat Every Day I'm Wrestling. So that kind of knocks Every Day I'm Wrestling as far as that division. It's kind of putting him at the bottom. I'll be honest, I was disappointed, heartbroken with my loss to Big Orange Army. A lot of my team failed to show up. Romy's homies absolutely blew out loose ends. Scoring 160.21 points. You are the third highest scoring person in the league this week. Congratulations to that.
Well, thank you. I mean, anytime you can blow out loose ends, I think you've done a good job.
Yeah. Now, looking at as far as last week's matchups and stuff like that, Northeast Flying Bombers and the Kings. Flying Bombers come out on top on that one. Kind of a little heartbreaking for the Kings, I'm sure, considering the fact that if they would have played pretty much anybody else in their conference, they would have won. They just kind of luck of the draw ended up getting the highest scoring person in their conference that week. So, ouch. It kind of covers it. And do you have something to add?
No, I mean, definitely Northeast Flying Bombers were I believe they were the highest scoring team this past week with 177 points.
Yeah, actually, they were for the whole league, not just their conference. You're right.
It was they're basically saying this is why we're the defending TFL Super Bowl champions, basically, in that matchup. Another close matchup you had in there was the Sriracha Angry Chickens. They won their match by, I believe it was less than a point, just above. They beat the Scenbotts by just over a point. They had Scenbotts tight end got them a -1. So basically, you just turn that around with a little yardage and everything else, and that would have been a victory most likely for the Scenbotts. So I would say they lost that one. Yeah, they lost that one due to their tight end getting a -point, basically.
Do you know who had home field advantage in that matchup as well?
That was Sriracha Angry Chickens.
Okay.
So yeah. Home field basically won that one as much as a -point for a tight end lost it.
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end of the year when it comes to the home field advantage. I know there's talk around the league about maybe making some changes up, so be interesting to see what happens with that.
Oh, definitely. It should definitely be interesting. Has been tons of talk about that, but that'll be for a different show in the near future. Also, want to point out a big win by the El Palco Loco, beating Monsters of the Midway. Monsters of the Midway were cruising through the league so far, but that's now their third loss. So, I wouldn't have thought that one coming. But so big ups to Palco Loco there. But let's see. Other than that, let's let's get into those locks from last week.
Alrighty. So, speaking of another one bites the dust, how'd you do?
I bit the dust. I went out on a gamble, and I took a team that had yet to win a game, hoping maybe that would give them a little magic, and unfortunately didn't work out in my favor. I took the JC Beach Bums to upset the Maynardville Mudfish. They actually lost by 30. Joe Flacco, 4 points. Javaris Cadet, running back for New Orleans, he got 6 points, basically a lot of receptions out of him, not much in the rushing game. Andre Johnson just 9, Dwayne Roberts 8. It's just, they only had 2 players overall score double digits. That was the kicker Adam Vinatieri at 10 and LaMarcus Joyner safety at 11.5. So I tried. I tried to work a little magic with JC Beach Bums, and it didn't work out so well. But regardless of the fact, my other team I picked, the Pill Pushers, also lost. So I unfortunately went 0-2.
Well, sometimes you'll have that on a big job.
Yeah, Pill Pushers, you had Randall Cobb, 21 points, Aaron Rodgers, 22 points, Le'Veon Bell, 17 points, but I don't want to say that them not starting a cornerback that would gain any points hurt them, maybe cost, but they lost by 10. Sometimes it happens. Wide receivers really didn't help them out except for Randall Cobb based off of Havoc Hawks. Havoc Hawks just had a monster of an offensive game. So
well, I would have went with Pill Pusher as well, so don't beat yourself up too bad.
Yeah, it happens. It was a interdivisional matchup. I went with the better team, I guess on paper, but theoretically, Havoc Hawks. They're now the 6-2 team.
Any given Sunday, right?
Any given Sunday. How were your picks though? I believe you're starting to gain some momentum.
A little bit. 2-0 this week. That makes 3 weeks in a row I went 2-0. I believe that's right.
I believe if our math is right, that's correct.
I had Big South Bandits beating Central Wildcats. That was led up by a big effort by Peyton Manning, who I think also had a big hand in Big Orange Army taking me down. Congratulations, Big Orange Army. But Big South Bandits also had Antonio Brown, had a monster game. Matt Prater, did good as far as kickers, and then his defense. His defense really made the difference in that match. The offensives, Central Wildcats. Carson Palmer had 25 points. Jeremy Macklin had 39 points.
Yep.
His offense looked really good, but in this particular matchup, the defense is what won it, definitely. Also had Old School beating the Terrible Towels. And that was a close one, squeaked out by it was under 3 points as far as victory goes. Romo didn't help Old School much, but the rest of his team seemed like it really kind of picked up the difference. Jamal Charles throwing up over 25 points. Golden Tate had a big game. He had Julius Thomas tight end, 3.3 points. He really, he not so hot on that. Gronk throwing up 15 points. Then his safety had 11 points, so that was nice. Terrible Towels, he had Andrew Luck. Really, those two teams, if you go back and look, it was very close. It just squeaked by. I don't know. Like you said, looked good on paper. I had a feeling on that one, and it came through.
Yeah. I'm going to have to start paying attention to who you pick, because right now you're on the roll. I'm not on the roll. Real quick, do you want to point out on the that matchup that you did have with the Big South Bandits? That was their 6th consecutive win. They are now 6-2. So they went 0-2 to start the season, getting a little maybe down, maybe feeling bad. Next thing you know, rattle off 6 wins in a row. That's how you do it here in fantasy football. They're leading their division.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost the top seed in the playoffs, which we will also go over later on this episode. We're going to do a little playoff outlook, see what the playoff picture looks like for everybody. But and then same thing in your matchup that you had with the Old School beating Terrible Towels. That's actually Old School's has won now 4 in a row.
Yep,
So
conference game that put Old School at the top of the NFC North. Big South Bandit. I mean, they have the second best record in the NFC, followed only behind Murphy's Law. So definitely starting to see some of the. We have a few people starting to pull ahead in that conference.
definitely Murphy's Law, 5 wins in a row. Old School, 4 wins in a row. You've got Big South Bandit 6 in a row. So I mean, in the NFC, there's a lot of teams starting to pick up the momentum as we're getting into the later stages of the of our season here. AFC wise, you got the Butt Monkeys, another one of those teams that started really ugly. They started 0-3. They're now 5 games. They're now 5-3, won 5 in a row. Starting to take a, in the beginning of that season, you had Outkicked My Coverage, surprising everybody. Starting out big, now they've lost 3 in a row, which is about, if I remember when we did that poll about week 4, we said who's the shocker. Outkicked My Coverage was that shocking team, but now they're starting to fall back into the pack, which I believe is what a lot of us were predicting was going to happen, that they were going to all of a sudden reach, they outshined early. So it's, like I said, we're going to get into our little playoff picture later on in the episode here. Let everyone know where they're sitting. Division means a lot. Conference also means a lot with your overall. So it should be pretty interesting when we get into those playoff pictures. But first, it is Rivalry Week. Week 2 of the Rivalry Week. Anyone who lost last time they faced their opponent back in week 3, you need to win or your name changes. Those teams.
I was going to say, who's on the hot seat?
The hot seat teams are the Sriracha Angry Chickens, Bromy's Homies, Pill Pushers, the Scenbotts, Butt Monkeys, Outkicked My Coverage, JC Beach Bums, the Kings, Northeast Flying Bombers, Murphy's Law, which, by the way, that was the only game they've lost so far this season, was back in week 3, El Paco Loco, and Old School, who also is on a winning streak. So there's a lot of these teams that they lost, a couple weeks back, but they've picked up momentum since then. So it should be pretty interesting on who gets their name changed after this week.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. And then games of the week, we do have a game of the week for the AFC. We did have one for the NFC. However, due to a scheduling conflict, the assistant to this traveling secretary screwed up and was scheduling teams that actually aren't rivals for this week. So there was a bit of a mix-up, so there's actually no NFC game of the week. We apologize to the NFC. We'll make it up to you next week. I'm sure there'll be a game next week that's going to be blowing people out of the water, maybe a good division matchup that could settle some playoffs area. But so we'll still talk about the NFC somewhere in here, but AFC is where we're going to be focusing on for our game of the week. And that game of the week is the Scenbotts versus the Rampant Lions. And do they have a history?
Oh well, yeah, Rampant Lions. They've been on a roll. Scenbotts. I think they've had some challenges coming up, so it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens.
Oh yeah, this is Scenbotts lost back in week 3. The overall record, I believe, if I was remembered correctly, some of the stats aren't as up to date as they should be. It says currently that the Scenbotts are 0-3 against Rampant Lions, but I believe the owner Jeff clarified that and said that's a mistake. Scenbotts are actually 0-5 against Rampant Lions.
Yeah, I think
Jeff wanted to make sure.
The 2013 stats, I think, aren't showing up like they should.
Yeah, so Jeff really wanted to make sure he pointed that out because he renamed them last year. He said, I beat them twice last year, so I want to make sure that they understand that that's actually what has occurred. They're actually 0-5 against the Rampant Lions. So that's why they're the game of the week. This is a huge matchup. Scenbotts need a win to stay in their division. Rampant Lions need a win to start, very, very tough NFC East, is it, I believe? Or is it a North you guys are in?
We are in the North.
Or the AFC. The AFC North.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a foe you're very, very familiar with. Rampant Lions he's also won back-to-back TFL championships. He is no stranger to having the spotlight on him. So let's break this sucker down. You want to go ahead first?
Well, that's fine. Just looking at the matchups, I don't think neither one has an ideal quarterback matchup. Scenbotts has Carson Palmer at the Cowboys. Cowboys defense have pretty much looked outstanding this year. Didn't look so hot against the Skins, but you'll hit a speed bump every now and again. Rampant Lions, Drew Brees at North Carolina with the Panthers. Not a big fan of that. As far as running backs, looking at Ahmad Bradshaw for the Scenbotts, Mark Ingram for the Scenbotts. I like both of those matchups pretty good. Especially the one Giants just haven't done well against the run this year. So, and that's Ahmad's old team. So I think he'll come in, he'll be fired up, and we'll see how he does. Running backs for Rampant Lions, we got Arian Foster, who's has just been a beast this year. He's done pretty good. Looking at wide receivers, we've got Patterson for Scenbotts. We've got Royal. Patterson's versus the Skins. It remains to be seen. A lot of that's going to depend on how well Bridgewater manages to hold it together. And then Royal at the Dolphins, the Finns have really surprised me this year with just how well they've done. Looking at wide receivers for Rampant Lions, Vincent Jackson, old school. He's kind of been coming back on strong, past game or two, I think. Greg Jennings, another old timer, but he's got the skills. I like him. Again, that's all going to depend on Bridgewater and his ability to get the ball out and how well he spreads the love. We got the Seahawks. We got Paul Richardson. He's middle of the line. Your wide receiver 2/3, but he's going against the Raiders, so he should have a pretty big game. Tight ends, I like the Rampant Lions tight end a lot better. I'm looking at Larry Donnell. Going to get against the Colts. I think the Colts have been pretty good about giving up points to tight ends this year. But they've also been pretty bad against the run. Kickers, it's kind of moot point. Now defense, I know the Scenbotts is missing. They got to buy. I wonder how bad that'll come back to bite them on their defensive end or not. And I would give the edge to Rampant Lions with their defense as far as looking at their matchups.
I agree. Look at this. Carson Palmer, Drew Brees. You most likely would want Drew Brees, but Carson Palmer's going up against.
I'm going to cut you off real quick. Brees he's just not been himself this season.
Not at all.
A few games he's done pretty. He's done really well. He's typically at home. He's looked awful on the road. I say awful for Brees. He's generally better than that against other, compared to your other run-of-the-mill quarterbacks and stuff. But he's just not throwing up the numbers like he did. And I'll let you continue. I just wanted to bash Brees.
No, it's no problem. Bash away. You got Carson Palmer, Arizona, going up against that Dallas defense that has been definitely a different defense than normal. They've been showing pretty good life at stopping everyone, so that could be a tough matchup there. Running back wise, you said Ahmad Bradshaw going up against his old team. Of course, there's going to be a little fire in the belly to get back at them. So you could see a definitely good game there. Ingram's going to be against a Panthers defense that can be very tough to score on and get anything from. So that's tough. But Arian Foster, he's starting to possibly look like his old self. Sure, it was last week was the Tennessee Titans that he faced, and the Tennessee Titans defense isn't the best. So, but he's starting to put some stuff together.
Man, Foster has really surprised me this year. I think he's looked great. In no way anticipated him to do what he has, and I mean, he even had 30 points against the Cowboys. I mean, it's not just the Titans. The Titans D.
Sure.
They've shown signs of being good, but then they fall apart. But he's put up good numbers all year.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, wide receiver wise, Vincent Jackson, he's so hot and cold, especially with the problems going on in Tampa. So I mean, one week you're going to get double digit points, the next week you're not. So that's always a tough call. Jennings, same type of same thing he's got going on. He's got a rookie quarterback throwing, so he's got rookie Paul Richardson in there. So this is going to be um, one of those matchups that I hear Jeff is good at. He's good at the waiver wire. He's good when it's bye weeks. He knows how to pick up the right players at the right time. I mean, this is the kind of matchup that he lives and breathes for, from my understanding. So.
You mentioned bye weeks. If you look at everybody that Rampant Lines has on bye, he's got Jay Cutler on bye. He's got Reggie Bush on bye, Devin Hester on bye, Julio Jones on bye, Jeremy Ross on bye, Martellus Bennett on bye. I mean, he's got a ton of big point guys all sitting out this week. Like you said, I mean, that's the last time he and I played. He had a few buys and stuff, and he's really good at picking people up off the waiver wire, playing the matchups. Kudos to him.
It's almost like it's his little bread and butter. He's just sitting there salivating, waiting for bye weeks to start up, just so he can start taking apart people's teams just by picking up the right person at the right time. It's I guess that'd be why he's back-to-back champions before in the TFL. So
he's pretty old, so he's been doing it for a while. So.
Ooh, that sounded like a little jab.
Just a small one, but.
But I would say, due to the experience level and just the history of this rivalry, I'm gonna go Rampant Lions on this one. I just think Jeff just knows how to pull these ones out. So I think Scenbotts. It's going to be close, but I think it's just going to be one of those things where, Paul Richardson is probably just going to be, beast out or something this week and score 20 points.
Yeah,
he probably hasn't started him all season. This time he starts him, he'll get 20 points against the Raiders or something like that, and that's what's going to be the difference.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And then I think home field advantage will come into play. I think it's going to be close, but I think Rampant Lions will squeak by.
Yeah. All right. Well, normally, like I said, we go into an NFC matchup, but unfortunately, we don't have one prepared, so we'll just go straight into our locks.
Alrighty.
Let's see. Who do you got locking up this week?
Well, okay, I'm back to hopefully one AFC, one NFC this week.
All right.
I'm looking this week at Big Orange Army versus Sriracha Angry Chickens. We got a 5-3 Big Orange Army, 2-6 Sriracha. I think it's going to be a close matchup. But after the smackdown I got last week, I think we're going to see Macklin going off again. Peyton Manning, he's pretty much carried Big Orange Army on his back. He's just he's a beast of a quarterback, and when you're world caliber setting records, nobody's going to stop him. Like his wide receivers, I'm just I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a good matchup. But I'm gonna give it to Big Orange Army.
It's one of those matchups. I mean, you got Manning facing Manning here. Eli Manning versus his brother Peyton Manning. If this is the way the lineups stick, anyway. So I mean, that's always a good battle because each Manning knows exactly how to post up points if they can get their job done correctly. But
Eli, he's going. It's not his best matchup for Eli. He's going against Indy. I think it's going to be a tough one. But with that said, Giants usually, when the Cowboys start that November, December, fall, that's usually when the Giants kind of start picking themselves back up off the floor. We'll see what happens.
Exactly. I mean, roster-wise, you have to give a lot of the edge to the Big Orange Army just based off the roster. I mean, you look at Sriracha Angry Chickens. You got Trey Mason, hasn't really gotten himself completely established as the lead running back for St. Louis because of Zach Stacy. You got Denard Robinson. Sure, he's starting to flash a little, but he's still sharing a lot of the carries. Now, the big difference right here, I think, is the Brandon LaFell. New England is, ever since that embarrassing game that they had against Kansas City where everyone was writing him off, he's done nothing but, New England's blown up, and so has Brandon LaFell. He has been putting up points like there's no tomorrow. You got Emmanuel Sanders, huge week last week. Jimmy Graham, huge week last week. So it's going to be a tough matchup, I think, and I think I'm going to go ahead and say that Big Orange Army just doesn't have enough firepower this week. I'm going to say Sriracha Angry Chickens is going to win this one and keep their name.
I can, I can't argue with that. Looking at the tight end, Jimmy Graham versus, Big Orange has Kobe Fleener. I'm a huge Graham fan. Just there's no better tight end out there, really. But I think it's going to be a squeaker. But I think Big Orange has the momentum, and we'll see what happens. Who's your first pick?
See, my AFC pick, and, I'm not going to lie to you. I feel a little sour about how my losses last week. I feel a little sour by going 0-2 last week. So I went ahead and I'm going favorites all over the place.
Okay.
Favorites. And my matchup here is the Outkicked My Coverage against the Havoc Hawks. And you got the 4-4 Outkicked My Coverage. Once again, we talked about how they were definitely starting to show some promise. I mean, beginning of the season, they were left for pretty much dead. They're like, oh, they're not, new owner taking over, roster's all been, all messed up, but they came out alive. But now they're starting to get back to the middle of the pack, the 3-game losing streak. So I mean, you got Tom Brady, monster numbers last week, but I don't think he can pull that off again. His running back situation really scares me. He got for Outkicked My Coverage. You got Justin Forsett, who can definitely score some points, but he's not your leading rusher, in my opinion. And then he's got a New England Patriot running back, Jonas Gray, who that's the first time I've ever read that name. So I have no idea who that guy is and why there'd be even a reason to start him. Obviously, there must be a reason because he's starting him. Maybe he knows something I don't know. Havoc Hawks, though, Andrew Luck, DeMarco Murray, rookie sensation Kelvin Benjamin, Mohamed Sanu. It's going to be a runaway, in my opinion. Havoc Hawks are just going to lay the beat down, the smack down, whatever you call it, down of Outkicked My Coverage. Havoc Hawks takes this victory.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, Murray's he's been a beast. Ellington Luck is going to have fun with the Giants. I hope not, but the thing, when I Outkick My Coverage, you mentioned Tom Brady and Jonas Gray. I mean, New England, they're going against Denver. Denver's had just an outstanding defense. I mean, they've had a good defense this year too. So, but with that said, if anybody knows how to, Brady versus Manning, there's always that rivalry. There's, I think Brady's slided a lot of times as far as being compared to, on how good a quarterback he is. It is at Denver, so I think that's going to give the Broncos a little bit of a home field advantage. But, if anybody can, Patriots, they might be able to come out on top with that. So interesting matchup. I would have to agree. I think Havoc Hawks will definitely pull out ahead. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Brady throwing up some big numbers and making it a close game for Outkick My Coverage.
It could definitely happen. There's definitely no doubt about it. Whether it'll be enough points, who knows? But there you are, Havoc Hawks. That's pick number 1. Pick number 2, NFC. Like I said, didn't care for losing last week. I don't see myself ever losing again. I went favorite city all over the place also. I'm looking at the matchup, the Monsters of the Midway, 5-3, up against the Beasts of the NFC, 7-1 Murphy's Law. They got a 5-game winning streak. It's going to go to number 6, in my opinion. You got Drew Brees, DeMarco Murray, T.Y. Hilton, Demaryius Thomas, Greg Olson. Defense, Von Miller, Gerald McCoy, Ezekiel Ansah. Although you might want to change that because he's not going to be playing. But I didn't tell you to do that. Shane Vereen, there's your running back for New England that might be able to score the points. Monsters of the Midway, Blake Bortles, doing a fantastic job, but I don't think he's doing that great of a job that it's going to be able to make a big difference. You got Alfred Morris, he's starting to see himself come back a little, but with RG3 supposedly going to be the starting QB this week, I think that hurts Morris. Reggie Wayne, Wes Welker, he's not doing as well as normal. So I think this is going to be another runaway landslide. We may have a new high score next week, or this coming week. Murphy's Law over Monsters of the Midway.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm really surprised Monsters of the Midway managed to build a team. Look at the bye weeks they've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 byes. He's pieced together a team. I'm good. Hey, good for him to at least do that. But yeah, I got to agree. Monsters or Murphy's Law. He continues his wins, and sorry about that.
Yeah.
To Monsters, but yeah, he's going to get beat down. As far as my second pick, I was looking at Kings versus the Shiva Blasters.
Okay.
Again, I think it's a fairly close matchup. Shiva Blasters, he's starting RG3, which, I know the Skins are starting him. I look to see RG by halftime sitting the bench. And then we'll have
McCoy?
Yeah, McCoy. I think we'll see him coming back in at halftime. I just think he's just better caliber quarterback. Shiva's got Mark Ingram for running back. I do think he's pretty good. He's got Ben Tate. Wide receivers, Doug Baldwin, Ruben Randall, Jordan Cameron. Don't really... The Doug Baldwin matchup against the Raiders is pretty good. Ruben Randall against the Colts. Colts have been really stingy with wide receivers this year, so I don't think he'll put up very good numbers. Jordan Cameron, tight end. We'll see what happens with Cleveland. I don't know. I just don't see good things in Shiva Blaster's future. Looking at the Kings, Ryan Tannehill has just been. He's another one that's really surprised me this year. He's done a whole lot better than I thought he would. I know the Chargers have been on a roll, but at the same time, I could really see Miami I could see Miami winning that game. I could see Tannehill having a big night, throwing up some good numbers. Justin Forsett, going against mediocre Steelers defense, I think he'll have good numbers. AJ Green, don't know. I'll have to wait and see just how healthy he is, but he's going against the Jags. So if there's anybody for him to bounce back against, it's going to be the Jags. Mike Wallace against the Chargers. He's got Terrence Williams going. We'll see what's going on with Romo, if he's coming back healthy or if his back is still tweaking him. Gronk just put up huge numbers. I think last week I expect him to do pretty good against the Broncos this week. As far as a match, I think it's the 2-6 Kings. I think they're going to go to 3-6, and I think the 4-4 Shiva Blasters are getting ready to lose. I'm locking the Kings.
Locking the Kings, I guess. I mean, record-wise, that'd be considered an upset.
I guess it would.
Let's see. Back in Week 3, Shiver Blasters defeated the Kings by 12 points. So there's definitely revenge on the mind for the Kings. They have looks like a 500 set history right now. So it should be an interesting matchup.
Well, and on top of that, if you look at the Kings, they've got Stafford on the bench, Bale on the bench, Eddie Lacy on the bench. They're all in a bye week. He still put together a pretty good team. Shiva, he had Aaron Rodgers. I think that's kind of what carried him that Week 3. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's quite surprising that he's got a 2-6 record. He's got such a nice little lineup sitting on his bench now because of buys this week. So it kind of makes you wonder.
I think he's had that luck of the draw. I've not looked at it, but I bet if you went back, I bet he has played some of the higher scoring people each week in that conference, and it's just if he'd played anybody else that week, he probably would have won, but he's just ended up with that top one or two, and hey, it happens.
That definitely happens. I know all about that.
Oh, well, speaking of it happening, I know we kind of wanted to give a little playoff picture.
Little playoff picture. Let me load that up here real quick. We have the AFC and the NFC playoff pictures. They are on the website under league articles. I hope it is correct. The commissioner's supposed to look it over. I believe he hasn't yelled at me about it yet. Definitely the way the seedings work and who's winning the divisions and how all that works can be sometimes a headache. So I've got both up, both on the article site right now. Tells you how the playoff seeding works, tells you how the tiebreakers work. But right off the bat, hopefully, like I said, this is all correct. You have AFC right now, your division leaders. You have Pill Pushers, Big Orange Army, Dispensing the Pain, and Outkicked by Coverage. And those should be the correct seedings. So right now, if the season ended, you'd have the Pill Pushers and Big Orange Army with the buys, Dispensing the Pain, and Outkicked by Coverage, holding the home playoff games. There are current wild card teams for the AFC are the Havoc Hawks and Rampant Lions. Rampant Lions holds the tiebreaker. Now, let's real quick. If you look, tiebreakers are division winning percentage, conference winning percentage, overall winning percentage, head-to-head results, total overall points, power rankings, efficiency. To figure out who the second wild card was, we had to go all the way to the total overall points to figure this one out. Because both Rampant Lions and Butt Monkeys, they're both 5-3 with overall records, which is how the wild cards are decided. First off, folks, division is your division record, wild card overall record. So, if you think you don't have a good chance in the division, you may have been losing some of your divisional games. Try to win everything else, and you should be able to get into the wild card. So, just because you may not be doing good in your division, if you can beat everybody else, you have a very, very good chance of making it into the playoffs.
Every day I'm wrestling, 5-3 overall. I would bet they have a really high overall points as well. But they're at the spot they're at because division record is what's counted first.
Correct. They are currently in the 8th position. If they're behind the Butt Monkey, like right now, you have Rampant Lions, Butt Monkeys, and Every Damn Wrestling. They're all with an overall of 5-3 record. So then you have to look at what's in the tiebreakers, which is division winning percentage. Unfortunately, Every Damn Wrestling's 0-3. So right away, they're destroyed because of that divisional record. So the only way Every Damn Wrestling is going to be able to get into the playoffs is by overall record. There's no other way for them to make it. I mean, unless some crazy thing happens in your guys' division and he can run the gauntlet, the best he can do is 3-3. So with you got your 3-1 and Rampant Lions is 3-2, so I can't see that happening. So I think Every Damn Wrestling, the only way he gets in is overall record, and he needs to basically just continuously win. That's the only way, in my opinion.
Gotcha. All right, we'll break. Let's go NFC. Break it down.
NFC was definitely very interesting, because you have Murphy's Law, number 1 seed. They are 3-0 in their division, but they've Old School also 3-0 to their division. However, first tiebreaker goes to the overall. They're 7-1, so they get the number 1 seed. Old School as the number 2 seed. Monsters of the Midway 3, Big South Bandits. We just talked about them earlier. They've gone 6 straight wins. That has earned them their division right now and the number 4 seed, so they get a home playoff game. This is where it all gets interesting, because you have 3 teams again with a 4-4 record for the wild cards: Shiva Blasters, Terrible Towels, Maynardville Mudfish. They're all 4-4 overall. For the Shiver Blasters and Terrible Towels, they both have a 2-3 divisional record. So it's almost like, how do we break up who's getting to be the 5th seed and the 6th seed? Who's facing who? It became a conference tiebreaker. Shiver Blasters currently has the better conference record at 4-3, so they get the 5th seed right now. Terrible Towers had a 3-4 conference, so they get the 6th seed. So, because of that, Maynard Mudfish have a 1-3 division record. They're currently right now at the 7th spot. They're on the bubble, but here's what's crazy. You have the Northeast Flying Bombers, El Paco Loco, Central Wildcats. I mean, when you look at what I have online here, that's 4 teams in their bubble, let's say, that can easily just takes one win. They can get the 4-5, and let's say, Shiver Blasters, Terrible Towels, Maynard Mudfish lose. They're 4-5. All of a sudden, the El Paco Loco, Northeast Flying Bombers, defending champs, they get themselves right into the wild card playoff just after a win this week. So it's the NFC, I think, is going to be one of those that's going to be a crazy, crazy matchups with wild cards. AFC, maybe not so much, but it's so early, it's so hard to tell. But breaking down the NFC's playoff picture was like having a pretzel in your head, trying to figure out who goes where. How that any of that be comprehended? Can you hear me now? Dan, did you mute yourself?
Oh, actually, I did mute myself. How about that? I think you did good breaking it down. I inadvertently muted myself. We got 4 weeks left. You still got a lot of stuff that can change and go in and out.
I feel like a ESPN analyst with BCS breakdowns and all this other craziness, trying to, breaking all these wildcard things down. I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting each week, breaking these things down and seeing who moves where after just one victory, because divisions are important, but man, that overall record. Whew.
Yeah, and it will. It will change each week. So. It definitely makes it interesting. So we'll see what happens. And then I wouldn't mind hearing later towards the end as far as how we determine draft results and all that good jazz too.
For the draft position and everything.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm sure that's some other crazy breakdown that only the commish could even formulate and populate and figure out, and have to discuss it for ourselves. Probably write it down 3 different ways, merge it all together, put some spice on it, cook it up, and then feed it to us, and we'll be like, sure, that has to be correct. But the number one thing, guys, about the draft, real quick, you tank, you're in trouble. Just telling you that right now. I mean, you have 3 and 5 teams right here who are just a win away to being in wild card contention. How crazy is that? So, right now, for instance, as crazy as this sounds, JC Beach Bums could win out, and highly unlikely, but they could maybe be a spoiler for somebody.
Theoretically, it's possible.
So, they're currently still mathematically playoff eligible.
Gotcha.
Mathematically.
Yeah. Now it's not the time. Definitely. You don't ever want to, but now it's not the time to give up. And definitely you want to. If you feel like your team's hurting, make some trades. Start making some stuff happen. Shake it up a little. See, you never know.
Oh, you never know. Definitely, the trade deadline is. I think it might be next week. We really need to get in on that. I wish our stat person was here, or someone could tell us who that was, but we'll have to look into that. I almost want to think it might be next week is the trade deadline, but I'm not for certain. So hopefully we'll get more clarification on that. Maybe it's somewhere. Maybe it's in the charter. Who knows? It could be in the charter, and I'm too lazy to look it up. So. Other than that, we have our Week 8 results, we have our Week 9 games of the week, we have our locks, and now, folks, it's time to bring you guys a new segment, something that we thought up of. We did get a couple of entries, I guess not really entries per se, but we got some smack talk for some people, and it's our new segment. It's called Just Bring It. We're basically, whether you're a game of the week, not a game of the week, you got something to say against your matchup, you send us your video, we're going to throw it on here, We got it here for you in just a second, and just bring it.
Well, Tim, I'd just like to say that the revenge from you handing me my only loss of this here season is going to be swift and brutal, my friend. No Julio, no Roddy. You don't have Roddy. Screw him. No Jordy, no Matt Ryan, no Cutler. Not looking good, bud. See you on the gridiron.
Every day I'm wrestling is coming for you. You're going to fear me like you fear driving in the snow. Come at me with that weak-ass 3-5 record. Do you not remember week 3 when I put a 40-point smackdown on you? You play in a weak-ass division called the AFC East. I'm from the AFC North, fool. You can't come at me with senior citizens like Frank Gore, Larry Fitzgerald, and Andre Johnson. Did you get a discount on them? I got J.J. Watt. He'll outscore your entire defense, bro. Bring it.
Oh, every damn wrestling. I'll tell you what, you got yourself a mouth on you. But you know what? We're going into Seahawks Stadium. We don't care. But you know why? AFC North isn't all that bad. I've already taken down Rampant Lions. You're next. Plain as day. Roman's going to come in there, knock you out every damn wrestling. We're going to take you off your little high horse that you're on and bring you back to reality. We out.
And that, my friends, is that new installment. Just bring it. You got some smack you want to talk? Just bring it. Enough said. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here in the TFL. Once again, we got the playoff picture. We got rivalry week. Who's going to change their name next week? Maybe we'll... Actually, I think what we'll do for next week is we will debut people's new names. Nothing will change until after we record our show and debut the names of the teams who lost and what they were picked. I'm sure we can get that done. If not, then what the hell kind of a show are we if we can't even get that processed? So, for Dan Tirico, this is David Rome. It is Rivalry Week. Remember, just bring it if you got some smack to talk, and we will see you all next week. Catch you later.
You ready? Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power.